Okay, I am here with Jessica Bogie, level 4 certified Ask a Coach in Oswego, Illinois. Hi, how are you?
Hello. Thanks for having
Awesome.
me.
Of course, of course. So what is your swimming background?
I started swimming when my first swim lesson was when I was 9 months old. And I was in swimming in the suburbs of Chicago in Park Forest and Olympia Fields, all growing up. When we moved, I joined my first year-round swim team, and that was going into seventh grade. I had been doing like summer leagues before then, and over the years, I competed in high school and club. I did actually swim for my club during high school because I was in the marching band, and during that time, you couldn't do two fall sports at all. I did swim for high school my senior year, but I swam through college at Carthage College, and all of that experience in swimming really helped me develop the deep appreciation for the dedication that swimming requires and that discipline. Even though I wasn't an Olympian and didn't continue after college, swimming through college really fulfilled me in my career, and the sport has always been something that's been a constant in my life and helped shape who I am and how I am as a teacher also.
Really cool. So how has that experience shaped when you started becoming a coach? How'd you get into coaching? How did that affect you?
Yeah. Um, Coaching felt like a natural progression just because I wanted to stay involved with swimming. After college, when I first started teaching, I missed swimming a lot. I swam masters a little bit, and that didn't really fulfill me the same way. So I decided I wanted to give back. And um, that's when I first started coaching for the most part. But as a teacher, you kind of always need a second job. And I wanted something that was going to bring me joy and something that I was excited about. But my first getting into actual just like teaching of swimming was when I was 15. I started teaching at the Y that I swam at, and I was teaching lessons in lifeguarding. I taught little babies and all the way up to adult lessons. And that's kind of how I knew I enjoyed teaching swimming. And I don't know, it was just that natural progression. My first year teaching, I started coaching, found a job, and started in January. And um, just enjoyed working with the 10 and unders at that point, and then moved on into different ages throughout my career. Seeing the growth in swimmers and the confidence that they get in swimming, while it is a very individual sport, there's still a lot of team aspect to it that I really like.
For sure.
So one of the things I think I really enjoyed when I first started teaching lessons, which a lot of people won't say, is actually teaching the adults because they come in with
Really?
a fear, right?
Hmm.
Like kids have a fear, but they get over it pretty quickly. Adults typically, when they're trying to learn how to swim, it's because they didn't learn as a child and there's a fear
Hmm.
there. So, like helping them conquer that fear and just be comfortable in the water where they feel safe, or helping a swimmer refine something with their competitive technique, it's just something that's always been really rewarding for me.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I love that you describe it as rewarding because like that's how it feels for me. And I think a lot of other coaches is like that ability to give back to the kids is so like
Yeah.
so awesome. It's like such an awesome feeling.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you were a teacher. Now you work in the district office
Yeah.
and you're head coach for your club at Oswego. You're the program director. How do you balance all of these hats, shall we say, for your like work-life
Um,
balance?
yeah, that's a really good question. I don't actually think I know the answer to that because there's a lot of times where I feel that things are imbalanced and just, I'm doing really well in one aspect, but that means that something else is dropping somewhere else, right?
Mhm.
What I will say is that having an amazing coaching staff that helps that I can delegate to, that I trust, and that does things the way that our program runs them, whether it's the swim team or the lessons, and finding those people that I can count on and just say, all right, it's yours, enjoy, like, let me know how it goes and keep me posted, really helps take things off my plate. But it does require a lot of intentional planning and prioritizing my tasks. Like I already said, delegating those
Yeah.
responsibilities And I've had to, in recent years, learn to set more boundaries and try and say no to things and take time for myself. So, being involved like during the day with my teaching, I was in the classroom as a middle school math teacher for 21 years, and now I am the district math coordinator. So I work with all the teachers and I'm teaching the teachers and working through that. And I absolutely love it. So that keeps me grounded. And now my swimming and coaching keeps me around kids a little bit more. And my new role on the Illinois Swimming Board also allows me to pursue passions of swimming in a different way and make sure that we're reaching as many kids as we can in Illinois and trying to make sure that we are being effective for everybody, coaches and parents and swimmers. Um, I would say trying to make sure you carve out time for that self-care, which I know everyone says, but taking time for friends and family and self-care and making sure that I'm doing what I need to be successful
Yeah.
so then I can be the best person throughout the day for my swimmers, for my staff, and anything that I need to do. So taking care of myself is super important.
Yeah, for sure. I want to go back a little bit. Being on the Illinois Swimming Board, I missed that when I first mentioned all of your
Okay.
roles. But can we talk about a little bit? I feel like a lot of coaches tend to be like, quote unquote, scared to run for a board because they don't feel like they're, what's the word I'm looking for? Like they have like imposter syndrome. They don't feel like they should do it. What has being on the board kind of like, I'm trying to think how I want to word this question. I have the idea in my head. Like, has it helped your coaching, or like how do you like being on the board? What would you say to anyone who's interested in running on a board? Say that.
Okay, so that's a lot in that question, but
Hmm.
I know I do know what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Um, I was part of the inaugural Women Coaching and Governance that USA Swimming put together, where each of the LSCs designated someone that they wanted to attend, and I was one of those people. I was the one of the people. So they, in doing that, I've been involved in Illinois Swimming in small roles as far as involved with camps and clinics and zone meets and things like that. But as a teacher in the past, prior to COVID, a lot of the board meetings and things would happen during the day. So I couldn't be involved the same way that I could now. Now that we do a lot more things on Zoom and things are happening in the evenings, I have that availability. So being involved in that women coaches and governance program through USA Swimming was amazing. Being around so many women that were dedicated and excited about the sport of swimming, and wanting to give back in a way above and beyond just their own club in their own area. I learned a lot about myself in that there's still more that I want to do with swimming, and I wasn't entirely sure exactly how I wanted to go about that. Going back to saying like setting boundaries and making sure I wasn't
Yeah.
overextending myself. Um, this board position, I've only been on the board since October, and the board position was presented to me at the ASCA clinic in September as something that people wanted to nominate me for. And I talked to a lot of people and I did a little bit of research on my own and I thought about it. I wasn't entirely sure it was the right time, but after hearing and talking to some of the other people, I really felt like this was the opportunity for me to take a position on the board and learn more, even myself, right? Learn more about how the board is run and how things happen in Illinois swimming and what I can do to continue the legacy of the people before me, and continue those programs that they put into place and all the things that they were doing, but then also start new things and continue forward for the next 2 years. So I don't know if I really have the answer as to, what made me make that jump. I think it was other people's confidence in myself, like in me, right? Them
Mhm.
giving me that confidence and saying, no, we think you're the right person and this is why. And talking to others and kind of going through the pros and cons and thinking about that. So I'm still learning. I am definitely still learning, as far as just what my position entails and how I can contribute, but it's definitely been a good start so far.
That's great to hear. That's super cool. I want to ask this inaugural USA Swimming, like the women's coaches. I've never heard of this before. Can you tell me like a bit about like what it entails, like what happened?
So, USC Swimming is trying to get more women involved at the governance level of swimming, whether that's at basically the basic level would be your LSC level,
Mm,
and then trying to get more involved at the USC Swimming level because I'm going to probably mess up the data somehow, even though I
okay.
know I'm a numbers person, but there's data out there that says that there's more women coaches, but not represented when you
Hmm.
look at governance or you look at any
Yeah.
part of that swimming board side,
Hmm.
and just trying to get more women's voices involved. So it entailed a handful of Zoom meetings throughout the entire year. And then we ended with an in-person meeting at the um, annual, it was the USA Swimming Convention thing that was in April.
Hmm.
And I think moving forward now, they're doing it where they're doing it through the year, and then it will be at the USA Swimming um, annual meeting in the fall instead.
Okay.
But it was Zoom meetings with topics and discussions and sharing, learning. Like we talked about Robert's Rules of Order, we talked about how to get involved. We talked about a lot of coaches because I am a coach on program now,
Mm.
but some of them are school board, some of them are board run with
Yeah.
parent boards. Some, you've got a lot of different ways that are running. So talking about how people handle working within their own governance, within their own team,
Hmm.
and what that looks like. So it was just great to hear from and talk with other women in the United States about swimming and their experiences. There were a lot of really great conversations, and it was something that's probably been the most impactful for my swimming career in the last handful of years.
That's really cool to hear. Like, I love that such a big community is being like built around women coaches because it's needed. And like
Yeah,
our club is all women except for my dad and my brother. But most clubs aren't that way, which is really a little
yeah,
sad,
and
but
we're the same way too. Actually, now we have two male coaches, but the rest of us, we've got seven or eight. The rest of us are females. So
that's really cool.
yeah.
I want to call back a little bit to what we were talking about earlier about having a good support system that you can delegate responsibilities to when needed. How do you go about finding that support system for you? Or like, how do you know you're hiring the right people?
We hire within. So,
Okay,
outside of myself, the majority of our coaches were Delta swimmers
that's
or
really cool.
and were with or have been with our program for a very long time. Um, we do have a few that haven't been, but have been around swimming in the area. And I think just sitting and talking, I actually had an interview yesterday with a new coach who is a sophomore in college and she wants to start her coaching career. And talking about what their goals are and what they're looking for, and trying to make sure that we have something available right now to offer them, but then also I look forward as to what the path would be, right?
Mhm.
Like we want to be able to provide opportunities for coaches to continue their growth and not just say, okay, you're the 8 under coach and you're going to be there for, umpteen
Yeah.
years. Part of my growth as a coach when I started was I started coaching with Hinsdale Swim Club, and there were, I think, maybe two, three of us coaches. And I started with the 10 unders, and then the next season it was the 10 unders and the 11-12s. And then, like you just grow into that experience. And I want to make sure that when we're looking for people, that we match as to what their goals are with what they
Mhm.
want to accomplish and why they want to coach, what we're looking for, and what we can continue to provide them in the future.
That's really cool. I'm gonna change subjects a little bit. Let's talk a little
Okay.
more SwimAmerica based with your
Okay.
program.
That's
Your
fine.
SwimAmerica program you've edited it to fit your needs as a club. Can we talk a bit
Yep.
about how you went through that process?
Yeah. The first thing is Swim America provides an excellent framework for building a lifelong swimmer, whether that
Hmm.
means you become a competitive swimmer or not, that doesn't matter, but they build the skills for lifelong swimming, and swimming is one of those things that you can do for your life, right? We have made adjustments to fit our community, and how we want it to grow into our swim team program. So we have 9 levels instead of the 10. We've kind of squished a little bit. We also added and started a pre-team this last season because we had so many new swimmers that wanted to join our team. We renamed the levels, the stations into, we call them levels, but because our team name is Delta Aquatics,
Yeah.
we started with the Greek alphabet. So we have alpha, beta, and gamma levels, and we have 3 levels at each one.
Hmm.
And we have our alpha levels 1 and 2, 3 are basically those learn to swim levels. So those are the same, very similar to, like, we didn't change much. We've only combined things here and there and then
Yep.
given names to them. And then in our beta 1, 2, 3 levels would be our stroke development levels, where we're really working on mastering that freestyle and backstroke and the fundamentals. We start diving at that point and deep water swimming. And then our gamma 1, 2, 3 levels are our pre-competitive levels. So those are where we're working on all 4 stroke refinements. They're in the competition pool. They're working on endurance. We start talking about racing and that aspect also, with the idea that once they get through alpha, beta, and gamma, then they join delta. So it
That's really
has
cool.
helped make that progression clear for parents and swimmers. And then it also aligns with our long-term vision of how we want swimmers to transition from lessons to the program, our swim team
Yeah.
program. We also, this fall, started using Captain for
Okay.
our registration system. And that has done the things that I wished our previous system used to be able to do, where they have automatic emails that you can schedule. They have digital skill checklists and kind of like that report card system. So that's been super helpful because we put it all digitally so parents can always review it. They still have a certificate. We have modified the certificate also.
Yeah.
They get little Delta stickers instead of the
Oh, that's so
SwimAmerica
cute.
stickers and the triangles. And we've made our own certificate too. But so they get that. We've made level cards that tell them like what they've passed and what comes next. I get a lot of that in person, but then having it digitally allows parents when they are registering again to make sure they
Mhm.
remember, like, oh, wait, what level am I registering for? Where did they leave off? What do they need to work on?
Yeah.
So I think all those things together, starting with that base of the Swim America curriculum, has really created that positive, engaging environment and still allowed us to maintain Swim America's high standards for teaching and delivering those lessons.
Yeah. No, I think that's really cool that like So America is made in such a way that you can adapt it however you need to. So that if it's your program, because what point is there into buying a program if you can't, if it's not going to work for you in the first place? Like,
Mhm.
it's really cool. How did you decide where you wanted to combine levels in, or like how did you decide how you wanted to separate it into your alpha, beta, gamma levels? That makes sense.
Uh, if you need the rest of my staff here. um, some of my other coaches, we spent a lot of time. I actually can't remember when we first became a Swim America program. It's been a long time. So I don't know when we first started.
Mhm.
But um, during, there was a small transition where during that COVID time, we weren't
Mhm.
out doing lessons at all.
Yeah.
So we didn't restart our program until the fall of 22.
Yeah.
And in there, we kind of ran with what we had. And then we just changed names and we ran
Mhm.
with what we had. And then as we were watching it happen, we're like, wait, this doesn't work. And just kind of combine things a little bit differently. Like our um, alpha 1, 2, 3 and our beta 1, 2, those first 5 levels are all in our instructional pool,
Mhm.
which is shallower, and it's easier to teach in. And then the beta 3 is when they move to the competition pool and they start working on
Mhm.
diving. They work more on flip turns, more on 25s and 50s, and then the gammas are all in the competition pool. So we had to do that to try and fit the times that we can offer lessons during the school year.
Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of one of the ways we did it. But I don't know. I don't even know if you were to ask any of us if we were happy with the way it laid out right now. We would probably still say that we'd want to make changes and adjustments here and there. But I think that this fall when we switched to Campton, what we tried to do is make all those changes at once. So it was like,
Mhm.
hey, we have this new registration system. Hey, we redid our levels because prior to this, it was just two levels at each of those. Um, and we combined the SwimAmerica 10 into six. We were really only using the first six levels of the SwimAmerica program, but
Mhm.
now we're using basically nine out of the 10, and that 10th one has become that pre-team level. So I think there's always room to move things around and make adjustments. But it was a lot of trial and error and conversations about like, what do we want them to learn? What do they have to master?
Yeah.
Um, and why? Like, how does that fit where we're going? And I think we're in a pretty good spot right now. So,
Yeah. Do you have a lot of kids transitioning from your lessons to your team, to the pre-team?
yeah, this last year, oh, I should have looked up the numbers, but I know there were
That's
at
right.
least in the last year and a half, there's at least been 20 that have joined from lessons. Some of them will start early, and if we can recognize their levels at the beginning of the swim season, we might
Hmm.
try and transition them to the team sooner. But we already have people that are like, okay, we're in Gamma, we're here. When can we try out for the swim team? And now we're at the
Yeah.
end of our short course season with the evaluations and tryouts coming at the end of March, I think. So
Hmm.
we're starting to prep for that. It's great to see that. And I think that's one of the things that helps us be a little bit different than the other programs that are in our area. A
Yeah.
lot of the other well-known programs is that we are focusing with the goal of trying to get those kids to be competitive swimmers.
Hmm.
And so people will come because of that. We do make it a little bit easier if they are joining from our lesson program. They don't always have to attend the evaluations. It just kind of depends on if we're talking about doing like just an evaluation night just for those lesson kids. So they know they go through the same thing as everyone else, but a little bit separate. So we're trying to give a little bit of benefit for those that are coming through our program also.
Yeah. Can you tell me a bit about how, so if your swim lesson kids do um, evaluations at certain points, what has your pre-team kind of become?
So our pre-team this year is brand new. We call it our exploring group on our team.
Okay.
And we created it simply because we had a waiting list that I wasn't able to take everybody off the waiting list.
Gotcha.
And so we now have essentially three beginning levels. Exploring was kind of a catch-all for those that were kind of at that, like, they know freestyle and backstroke.
Hmm.
They just were a little bit more than our lesson program, but they really wanted to join the swim team
Yeah.
and not just stay in lessons. So that exploring group has a range of ages. There's
Okay.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11 in there just because
Hmm.
we're allowing them to explore what a swim team is and kind of see
Gotcha.
like if it's something they want to do. They're a full part of the swim team. They can go to whatever meets they want to. Um, they've got practice twice a day or twice a week,
Mhm.
and it's been a great, very small group, but it's been a great way to balance that. And then we've had some kids throughout the season join from lessons and then go into that exploring group. But
Yeah.
as you know, being a former swimmer too, that it's kind of hard to join in the middle of the season. So
Yeah.
we're going to rethink what that looks like. And then we have two fundamental groups. So our fundamental groups are very similar to those gamma levels, those higher levels in SwimAmerica,
Hmm.
where our is our first 8 and under group. They know freestyle backstroke and a third stroke. And then our fundamental 2 is our 8 and under group where they know all the strokes, which is essentially they know just as much as our 9-10 group, but they're
Hmm.
8. So they stay with
Gotcha.
3 days. They have 45-minute practices. Um, so I think we still need to kind of refine exactly what that exploring group looks like, and how we can move kids from lessons into that group either throughout the year or at certain points to try and make it a little bit easier.
Cool. So your exploratory group just came as too many kids want to be a part of your awesome team. So get wanted to give them some
It was
ability to
an
join.
Olympic year. It was an Olympic year, so everybody wanted to be
True.
swimmers.
It's true. So yeah. So what advice
Um,
did you give to a new SwimAmerica program?
um, I would say that you want to make sure that you needs and like what's also in your area. very often in a lot of the Facebook groups, those mom groups, where people are asking, oh, we're looking for swim lessons. Because now is when people start looking because they're like, oh, I want my kid to learn how to swim by the time we're out in the in the summer and traveling and stuff. And so know what your community is looking for and what their needs are. If there are other programs that are focused more on certain aspects of swimming or, you know, what is out there for your community,
Yeah.
but then how can it benefit your swim team? Or if you're just a lesson program, what are the swim teams in the area looking for? Is there, like, can you help suggest like where kids can go?
Yeah.
Um, and we have kids that are in our lesson program that are learning to swim at 13, 14, and 15 because they want to join the high school team next
Yeah.
year. And that's something that they want to do. So, there's a lot of different opportunities out there. We strictly stay within that kid age. We don't offer parent taught classes or tiny because being
Yeah.
a competitive pool, our water is a little too cold.
Real cold.
Yeah, the water and the air combined, right, just is too cold. It's not the same as some of those like very small
Hmm.
pools with very high heat. And so we just kind of focus on that school age, like that 3, 4 age, whenever to get to the end. So I would say like the first thing would be like trying to start with clear goals, know why you're creating the program and what
Hmm.
your community needs and where you want these swimmers to go. And then to be fair, just start with the levels that SwimAmerica offers. You don't need to customize it the way we have. We did just because we were trying to rebrand a little bit and become a little bit more well known in our community. So we added a lot of colors and we added like little things and stuff like that to try and make it stand out a little bit more.
Yeah.
But that SwimAmerica Foundation is perfect, and that's how we ran our lessons for up until really the last couple of years where we started customizing just a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing I would say is that invest in that instructor training. We
Hmm.
typically have tried to do like an in-service training once a month or once every 2 months. It just depends on what our lessons look like that month.
Yeah.
And take the time to go over certain things and review certain things, and talk about the SwimAmerica techniques, but then those situations they may end up in with kids and parents and things like that. We have found we run our lessons at a smaller ratio
Mm.
than even SwimAmerica. We're normally 1 to 2, maybe 1 to 3 at some of those beginner levels,
Yeah.
and then 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 at the upper levels,
Mm.
but it's more so because that's what we found our instructors are excellent with. When we get
Yeah.
into those higher levels of higher numbers, then it's just a little bit harder for
Mhm.
maintaining. So that like instructor training and working with them is super important for new programs.
How do you, how did you decide when you want to organize your lessons with the team? Because you said you use a competition pool and that's how you like manage time with the team. How did you kind of decide when you wanted to organize lessons to run?
That's actually a really good question. During the school year, we only offer lessons on Mondays and Wednesdays, evenings. You only have 3 half-an-hour slots, and that's it. So they sign up for the month and they come Monday, Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday. So we might have 6 lessons, 7 lessons, or 8 lessons.
Mm.
We chose Mondays and Wednesdays because most of our instructors are our competitive swimmers who have high school meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Either they're the girls that are in season away at a meet, or they would be the boys that sometimes will time for the meets.
Yeah.
So, and if there's meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays and we have to cancel, then there weren't enough.
Mm.
So we started with Mondays and Wednesdays. We start our first lesson at 5:55. Right. I think now we added a 5:55. And then we go all the way up until 8. So we have that set up after our fundamental program is in that instructional pool. The first 2 levels go up until that like 7:25 time.
Mm.
And from 7 to 7:15, there's a 15-minute gap between when our seniors get out and our senior prep program gets in. So there are 3 lanes that are open. So that second level of lessons, we offer alpha 1, 2, and 3 and beta 1, 2, and 3. So then kids that are ready to start learning some of those higher skills or in the big pool or getting comfortable can move over for part of their lesson. And then our senior prep practice group is the
Mhm.
last group that's in the water, and they have all 8 lanes. They don't always need all 8 lanes. So then that last group that of lessons from 7:30 until 8 is beta 3 and all of the gammas. And they are a mix of the competition pool and the instructional pool, just depending on what they're working on. Sometimes, like if they're working on open turns or flip turns, they might be in the instructional pool. If they're working on dives or just back and forth, like learning 50s and incorporating flip turns, and they're in the
Yeah.
instruction or the competition pool. So that's how it's set up in the spring once high school season's over. So in April and May,
Mhm.
we do offer lessons Monday, Wednesdays, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays. But then what we offer just depends on my instructor's availability.
Yeah.
So we don't run a lot of lessons throughout the school year. In the summer, we do keep our Monday, Wednesdays at night. We drop Tuesdays and Thursdays because all the kids have summer league meets on Tuesday and Thursday nights.
Okay.
And then we run 2-week sessions in the morning. So we do 2 weeks at a time, Monday through Thursday in the morning to kind of work with um, vacation schedules or other camp schedules. And
Yeah.
we did that last year for the first time in a while, and it worked pretty well. So um,
Awesome.
we get to, because we run our lesson program and the swim team, we get to
Mhm.
kind of make sure that there's at least they get at least 2 to 3 lanes in the competition pool for that last class from 7:30 to 8.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for
Have a great,
having me.
of course.